Hi, this is Jill with Sunflower Quilts, and today I wanted to share with you how to sew a quilt top that's on point. It's pretty simple. It's basically like sewing a regular quilt top, horizontal and vertical, but there are some setting triangles and corner triangles you have to deal with. So I just wanted to go through that. First, I'm just doing a charm square pack to show you, to demonstrate, and it's also one of our new patterns called Baby Charms. So it's real fun and easy, and it's a really fun quilt to make as a gift for a baby quilt if you have a new baby coming. So you can purchase that on our website, and don't forget your thread cutter to get as well, because this is a great quilt for chain piecing and you want to cut those units quick. But you can get this quilt done in a weekend, especially since the charms are already cut. So what we're going to do first is we're going to sew our rows, however many rows, whatever your design is for your on-point quilt. You're going to sew your rows first, but there's no need to press yet. Just sew the rows and lay them out as they're going to go in your quilt. Don't press yet, because what we're going to do is then we're going to add the next step will be adding our setting triangles, and I'll show you that. Now I've put the setting triangles up there, and to cut your setting triangles, you just would have a square with the proper measurement and cut it on both diagonals, and then you will get 4 setting triangles. So I've placed the setting triangles where they need to be sewn, and it just makes it easier. It looks a little wonky, but that's just because none of the seams are sewn. So what I'll do is I'll take each row and sew the setting triangles to each end of each row. Then I will press them in opposite directions, just like you would a normal quilt, horizontal, vertical quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those and press them, and then I will show you how a great way to piece it together. Now the setting triangles have been sewn on each row. Notice that the center row does not have any setting triangles. That's okay, they're not supposed to. Those are where the corner triangles will go. And those always will go on last. The 4 corners always go on last. Also, I wanted to mention that as you are putting on those setting triangles, go ahead and as you're pressing, after you press, give that row a little bit of starch and press it again, because that will help stabilize any of the bias edges from shifting on you. It just is a little bit of insurance. So now I'm going to sew the two rows at a time together and show you how I'm going to construct it to put that whole top together. One other thing I wanted to say is it looks like the setting triangles are a little bit big. I always cut my setting triangles about 1 inch larger than it says. So if the square says 8 inches and then cut on 2 diagonals, I would cut an 8 inch square and cut it on 2. That way it ensures me when, after everything's sewn together, when I go to square it up, I have plenty of room to maintain my 1/4 inch all the way around without losing my points, in case I sewed it a little bit different, a little bit calawonky or whatever. It just helps. Try not to sew it calawonky. Try to sew it right the first time, but if you do, this kind of helps you to be able to have that fudge room. So now I'm going to sew the rows in sections, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, now we sewed 2 rows together in 2 row increments. So we've got rows 1 and 2, rows 3 and 4, rows 5 and 6, rows 7 and 8, and since we had an odd number row 9 at the bottom right, I sewed 3 rows together. So now it's, when you sew rows in increments of 2 or 3 like that, it makes it so much easier to assemble your quilt top. This is how I do every quilt top. I sew it in rows. It's so much easier to handle and what have you. So now I'm going to sew the upper left corner unit to the unit below it, and then I will sew the bottom right-hand corner unit to the unit above that. And then I'll end up with 2 units, and then I'll sew those 2 units together to make the top. And we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, now we're down to just 2 units in our top, and it really goes easy when you piece it in units like this, workable sizes. So now I'm going to sew the very last seam, and then we're going to get to the corners. Okay, now the whole top is sewn together, and now it's time to add the corner triangles. So what I've done, you take a square and cut it on one diagonal. That's how you get your corner triangles. What you have to do is then, with your corner triangles, you fold them in half and press a crease down the center. Then you know where to place it. That's your marking line, your center marking line. You can also find the center of your 4 corner blocks, and then you can match those up and just let the edges fall where they fall. There'll be plenty of room. We'll square that off later after all the corners are sewn. So I'm going to match the centers to the triangle to the center of the corner blocks and sew them and press them to the corner triangles, and then we'll be ready to square our top up for borders or the binding. Okay, so the corners are sewn on. It looks a little funny, but it's supposed to look that way. Once we square it up, it'll look great. So let's take it over there and I'll show you how to square it up. Okay, so now we're ready to square up our quilt top so that we can put our borders on it. And get it on your cutting mat and lay it out as flat as you can. If you have a smaller surface, you might want to put an ironing board if that helps, just to help alleviate the weight of the top. But this is pretty small, so my large mat works fine. What we have to do is we have to find our guidelines when we're squaring up. And what's important about this quilt is we don't want to lose these points right here where the setting triangles and the squares meet. So that's going to be our guidelines. So we want to be 1/4 of an inch away from those guidelines. So I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to place my 1/4 inch mark on those guidelines. So, and just work within your ruler limits. So I've got a 24-inch ruler, so I'm going to just work within my 24 inches. I'm going to take my 1/4 inch mark right here on the guidelines, which are these intersections. Then I'm gonna, so I've got 24 inches of it pretty darn square here. Now when I get up here to the corner, I also want that 1/4 inch mark to be at that guideline as well. So I'm gonna cut this because I'm happy with the placement. And then I'm going to cut just a little bit right up there because I've already found my 1/4 inch. Then I'll go ahead and turn the quilt top and continue all the way around. So now I know that this side is square to here, so I will put my 1/4 inch mark here, and I will align, I'm at about 2.5 inches along this mark. I'll take my 1/4 inch mark and continue it along this line, along these guidelines as well. And I'm square, so now I'm still square, so I'm going to continue to cut. If it seems like it's not, your guideline's not meeting and it's off a little bit, then just cut to the one where it is getting at the 1/4 inch mark you need, because we can always come back up. So now I'll take this 1/4 inch here and here, and I know this is square, so I'm lining that, and 1/4 inch up here, and that looks good. So I'm gonna go all the way to the top there. Now I'll turn again, and I'm left-handed, so I hope that's not throwing y'all off. But you do it the same way, only the ruler's gonna be on the right side of you. So now I've got this, and I'm gonna go ahead and take it, and because I know this line's square, and I've got it on the inch line. Then I'll move this to my 1/4 inch. Guidelines again, because we want that 1/4 inch all the way around, and I've got it, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. Turn it again. It's almost done. I love baby quilts because you can get them done so fast and they're pretty easy. But this is the same techniques you would use when you're squaring up your quilt top or your quilt after you get it back from the, I went a little too far there, after you get it back from the quilter. So then I'll go find my 1/4 inch. I know this is squared. 1/4 inch here, here, and there, and everything's nice and clean. Now I can turn it. Just another side, a side and a 1/4. But you can see the best way is finding those guidelines. Don't ever use the ruler on your mat. You'll never be square. Always use the lines on your ruler. So we're coming here to our 3rd corner, and I've got it equal here. I guess I'll put it at a 1/2 inch, and then align my 1/4 inch mark. Make sure I'm square to here. My 1/4 inch. This needs to come a little bit. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And then we'll cut. And sometimes because of our sewing, we might be off a little on the 1/4 inch. Then you just have to kind of estimate to just keep it square. And sometimes you can't avoid cutting those points. It's just because we're human and we sew. You know, we're not perfect. I've never made a perfect quilt or block. Then we're going to continue with our 1/4 inch. We're almost done. And it looks like it's going to work out pretty good. 1/4 inch. This will make your border go on square. Your quilt will become square even if you didn't sew it exactly right. And everything, your quilter will love you. And your 1/4 inch here. And then I'm also going to align, and hopefully, since this was one of the first lines we started with, and it came out just right. Whew, and it's still square. So that's how you're going to square your top on. Now you're ready to put your borders on. And everything will look really great. And it's good to be square. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you.